Find the equation of the tangent line of the polar curve r equals sine theta minus cosine 2 theta when theta equals 3 pi over 4. So for x, we know it's x equals r cosine theta. We plug in the r. X equals sine theta minus cosine 2 theta times cosine theta. Distribute the cosine theta. Cosine theta, sine theta minus cosine 2 theta times cosine theta. We plug in the theta. Cosine 3 pi over 4, sine 3 pi over 4 minus cosine 2 times 3 pi over 4 times cosine 3 pi over 4. Which leads us to the values of negative radical 2 over 2 times radical 2 over 2 minus the cosine of 3 pi over 2 is 0, and then 3 pi over 4 is negative radical 2 over 2, which leads us to x negative 1/2. X equals negative 1/2. So we look for the derivative of x. We know the product rule. So it'll be cosine theta times the derivative of sine is cosine theta plus sine theta, and the derivative of cosine theta is negative sine theta. And then we derive the second part, which would be equal to cosine 2 theta times negative sine theta plus cosine theta times negative 2 sine 2 theta. We distribute the negative, which gives us cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta plus cosine 2 theta times sine theta plus 2 cosine theta times sine 2 theta. And we know cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta is the double angle of cosine 2 theta. So for y, we know it's y equals r sine theta. We plug in the r. Y equals sine theta minus cosine 2 theta times sine theta. We distribute the sine theta. It'll be sine squared theta minus cosine 2 theta times sine theta. Then we plug in the theta of 3 pi over 4, and sine squared 3 pi over 4 minus cosine 2 3 pi over 4 times sine 3 pi over 4, which leads us to radical 2 over 2 squared minus 0 times radical 2 over 2, which will give us y equals y equals 1/2. And then we do the derivative of y. So it'll be y prime equals 2 sine theta, and then the chain rule, the derivative of sine is cosine, and then the product rule for the second part, which leads us to cosine 2 theta times cosine theta plus sine theta times 2 sine 2 theta. Distribute the negative, which equals to y. Y prime equals 2 sine theta cosine theta minus cosine 2 theta times cosine theta plus sine theta times 2 sine 2 theta. And now we're looking for the slope. So it'll be dy over dx, which leads to 2 sine theta times cosine theta minus cosine 2 theta, cosine theta plus 2 sine theta times sine 2 theta over cosine 2 theta, that was a double angle, plus 2 cosine theta sine 2 theta plus cosine 2 theta sine theta. We plug in the thetas again. And then we find the values of them. And for so it'll be 2 times radical 2 over 2 times negative radical 2 over 2 minus negative radical 2 over 2, and then the sign of 3 pi over 2 is 0 plus 2 over 2 times radical 2 over 2 times negative 1. And then for the bottom, it's the cosine of 3 pi over 2 is 0 plus 2 times radical 2 over 2 times negative 1 plus 0 times radical 2 over 2, which leads us to m equals negative 1 minus radical 2 over 2. We don't want to have a radical in the denominator. And then, so it leads us to negative radical 2 plus 2 over 2. And that's our slope. And for the equation of the tangent line, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We plug in the values. Your x would be a positive 1/2. I mean a negative 1/2. And this was your slope. And your y would be a 1/2. We distribute the m. And then we add the 1/2 to each side, which leads to this. And our final answer would be this. Y equals negative radical 2 plus 2 over 2 times x minus radical 2 over 4.